One Piece and Naruto are two of the biggest and most important anime and manga of all time. Comparison after comparison is made, from the story to the characters to every little piece of storytelling possible. Both sides are always comparing. Sanji and Might Guy are two characters who have been around the series for a massive amount of time. Both characters are very fun to watch in battle with their striking abilities, choreography, to even their respective rivalries. With the objective similarities in place, many people, including myself, wondered who would actually win in a fight. Now, right up there with which is the better story is the cross-verse battle debates between these masterpieces. While in truth, both series are amazing pieces of work, it always ends up being this bloodbath where we just disrespect and disregard whatever the other franchise has to offer. So no matter what I say, no matter how I put it, I will not win. There will be people screaming at me in the comments. I know I'm walking into an unwinnable battle, but I'm not here for that. I'm here to spread some knowledge and entertain y'all. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Verdix, and I recommend you go ahead and click that subscribe button. I put out quality content like this weekly. You won't want to miss. Now, the big and bad of all these types of debates is their strength, so let's see how they compare in this department. Might Guy from the start of the series is shown to be a constant rival to Kakashi, and even surviving the power cliffing that is throughout the series, in large part due to his rivalry with Kakashi. Kisame, who I think is very underrated, comes at him and yet is still being put down by Guy once he opens the 7th gate. This is a Kisame that was able to kind of mid-diff Killer Bee. If you aren't aware, Killer Bee was able to overpower Heavy Sasuke relatively easily, and also is enough to combat with an Edo Itachi and Edo Nagato for a tad bit. He gets taken out by Kisame, who gets taken out by Guy. During his fight with Kisame, Guy was able to use a Hirodora that dwarfed Turtle Island in comparison. Without his war feats, you can easily get him to around country level, being able to make Turtle Island look tiny in comparison to his gigantic Hirodora, but he gets even stronger than this, as when the 4th Great Ninja War starts, Guy is fighting for almost 2 days straight and then goes on to fight against Bijou controlled by Obito, and then Obito himself, along with the help of Naruto, Bee, and Kakashi. Guy is still able to fight, granted though some of the gates he opens restores energy and chakra levels. This is still some pretty solid stamina he has. He also is able to send Madara Susanoo flying back, which is something Naruto using his Odama Rasengan, granted though it was base Naruto, couldn't do, nor could all of the 5 Kage. Later on in the war, Madara would absorb the 10 Tails, which can produce around continental levels of power, and Madara absorbs this on top of his own insane strength. He's even fast enough to where Kakashi and even Minato are struggling to tag this dude, yet Guy does when opening the 7th gate. He can also perform non-human movements against Madara here. He then, in a crucial moment, realizes the only other option is for him to open the 8th gate. And when he opens the last gate, his first move is using a Sekizo technique, which can amplify the user's stats from 1 to 5 times. He uses Evening Elephant to knock Madara on his ass, to where Madara states that getting hit by 4 or 5 of those would be bad, and he is actively avoiding his fist. These attacks have a bit of range on them, as he's literally weaponizing the air by punching it so hard. However though, Madara gets back up and is actually excited to fight against Guy here, where Guy charges up a Sekizo barrage in which, despite blocking the first blow, Madara is still being overwhelmed and gets a direct hit from Guy and his fist that he was looking to avoid. And the one thing I wanted to note here is that he can't spam the Evening Elephant, as they break his bones when he's using it. Still though, this is enough to where Madara directly compares him to Hashirama, who is regarded as the god of shinobi. Despite this, Madara is still ready to play some more and lets Guy charges up his last and final attack, Night Guy, that has Madara go even farther and claim Guy to be the strongest taijutsu user in history. Guy then charges at Madara and lands a massive hit on him that almost killed him. The only reason he didn't was because he could regenerate. Still though, it was enough to blow off a side of his fucking torso. While he's in Night Guy, he can produce levels of damage that surpasses what the 10 Tails was able to do with a Bijou Bomb. And I'm going to get into a bit of some Naruto scaling here, specifically the last version of Naruto, as this version of Naruto we know is probably a few leagues above even Night Guy, and was still hanging around moon level, which to this day is argued against, but at the max level, the last Naruto would be moon level, who he just declared was at least a league or two above Guy, which might be lowballing it. Guy just doesn't reach Naruto's level of power, even at the end of the war, let alone at the final valley, and 100% not in the last. The pure highest level of attack potency you could give to Guy here would be multi-continental, which I myself believe he is straight up, as he's beating up Madara with the 10 tails absorbed, the same 10 tails that was able to produce around continental levels of power. Mind you, when Guy is using Night Guy, he's using his Sekizo technique, so he's getting most likely 5 times stronger and is still only able to blow off a bit of Madara's torso. The one major downside is he can only use his form for like a minute or two before literally dying from the effects. He still, during this short period of time, is able to produce multi-continental levels of power that can force an amped up Jubi Madara to regenerate. Yeah, the man is pretty cracked with his hands. Now, Sanji is cracking eggs with his hands, but let the man dance around you and you might be cooked. During Wano, he was using Diable Jambe to kick around Queen for a bit, although they are still a bit shallow. Sanji then goes through mental issues as his body transforms, and later unlocks Ifrit Jambe and other abilities we will talk about soon. During his usage of this form, he was able to speed through and avoid all of Queen's attacks and combo him into an oblivion and send him flying off the island. He only becomes unconscious afterwards because of his body transforming and mental conflicts he had just been dealing with. He then, in Egghead Island, was able to damage a Seraphim and Eshark who has the same Lunarian skin and DNA as King. This is important because King and the Lunarians have durability higher than that of even Kaido, who is known to have very tough skin and requires insane levels of power to damage, we will get into in a second. He then has an encounter with Nesjuro where he deflects his blade and then rocks him with a kick, which has him leaking blood. He can even kick away one of Kizaru's lasers, although the impressiveness of this specific feat is unknown. As for where his attacks scale to, well, we see minor characters like Sai from Dressrosa are verbatim stated to be continental in power. Not only is the main antagonist of that arc massively overpowering Sai, but Sanji, where we are currently at, would one-shot that same Doflamingo. After unlocking Ifrit Jambe, it's not like he was going blow for blow with Queen or anything like that. He's literally mollywopping this guy and literally sends him flying. He's massively surpassing the likes of Queen the moment he unlocks Ifrit. Furthermore, I did state that he was able to damage Eshark while in Diable Jambe, mind you, and if this was in Ifrit, it's safe to say a lot more damage would have been done. These are guys that it takes a lot more damage to defeat than mere continental levels of power a Dressrosa Luffy was defeating fairly easily. Now, the scaling for this part will be kind of going over some places, so do your best to stay with me here. Whitebeard is stated multiple times to be able to destroy the planet. The Earth in One Piece is also not your typical sized planet, as they have multiple moons and calculations that make the One Piece world a very large planet in size, and some go as far to even say it's as big as a star, although I definitely don't go as far as they do. It's still a massive planet, however, and with the same Devil Fruit, Blackbeard fights against Law after Wano, in which we see, with his awakened blade, he can clash and stalemate this same attack, and even go on to fight him for a bit. Although the time is unknown because it was off-screen, we still see that Law gave Teach a few more wounds and was able to clash with the world-destructive power of the Gura no Mi. While I don't believe this makes Law at the same tier of power as Blackbeard because he's just not, you'll still have to have some pretty comparable strength to even clash with this fruit. I usually don't hype up clashes in One Piece like that, but this is a special case due to the fact that the Gura no Mi has the power to destroy the entire world. In my opinion, at bare minimum, this would give Law around multi-continental, honestly, which is a low ball in my opinion, to where I more so believe moon level AP. Now, this all comes back to Sanji based off the fact that Law is in pretty much the exact same tier of power as guys like Zoro, Kid, and yes, Sanji. While the rankings are all something else, it's all widely and pretty objective within the story that they're all relative to one another. This gives Sanji moon level AP, although I must say, unlike Guy, Sanji's range of attacks don't span far, but still, he is a very formidable fighter. Now, speed in Naruto is pretty tricky, as there are statements as far back as the Land of Waves stating Haku can reflect at his mirrors at the speed of light, but this has been debunked pretty much, and we see later towards the end of the war, they're hyping up Naruto dodging a light speed attack known as the Light Fang from Madara. Being that Naruto is faster than Guy by a pretty decent amount, and this was only a reaction feat and not a movement feat, I think it's safe to say that Guy probably can't move as fast as Light. Mind you, for a good amount of the verse, being a lightning timer was being fast. Another thing I like to add when even talking about Guy in general is he has to charge up Night Guy, and the only reason he got it off was because Madara let him charge it up. Even when approaching Madara at these speeds, he still needs help to tag him, as Minato can teleport, grab the truth-seeking orbs, and then react fast enough to teleport away, all before Guy would have reached him. This is also while using the Sekizo technique, boosting his speed. Considering that a faster Naruto could only react to light at the time and not move that fast, Guy being relativistic would be a safe bet for his speed. Now, just like Naruto, speed in One Piece is controversial. Going off the feats we have seen, the earliest example of light speed would be all the way back in Thriller Bark, where Zoro is dodging attacks by Kuma, directly stated to move at the speed of light. This is a pre-time skip Zoro along with Sanji that goes on to train for 2 years and has numerous battles throughout the New World. Sanji is objectively faster than Zoro. I mean, he even outright moves faster than he can react at times, meaning Sanji was capable of moving and dodging light speed attacks a long time ago, and only has gotten massively faster since. Even at the start of the time skip, Luffy and Base considered light speed attacks from the Pacifista to be too slow. Sanji and Wano, when kicking Queen's ass, was able to actually go invisible from moving so fast. For reference, Queen was able to follow Marco's movements, the same Marco that isn't as fast, but can still move fast enough to clash with Kizaru for a short second in Marineford. Not only is Sanji moving way faster than this, but he's doing this in base. If he used Diablo Jambi or even Ifrit, then he would have been moving at speeds beyond Queen's comprehension. Sanji is not only bare minimum faster than Light, but I would say he's massively faster than it. After all, as a certain friend of mine would say, the fight starts and Sanji disappears. Durability is usually the quick part of this, as Guy would have at most superhuman durability, being he is only a human, while Sanji, thanks to his exoskeleton, has skin much tougher than any human. Even swords break on impact when touching him. I don't really need to go into any more than that for the durability compartment, but how well can they take a punch? Well, Guy is an endurance monster. Whenever he opens up the gates up to the 7th gate especially, his body experiences immense levels of pain. It's literally breaking down as he moves, and anytime he uses this, he is always needing to go restore his energy and heal from it. However, opening the 8th gate is a level beyond that, as when fighting Madara, he states that the level of pain he was feeling was something out of his imagination, and Lee is shaking at the idea of what he's going through. The one problem I have with Guy's endurance is he can't spam or really use a majority of his attacks for a long time at all. Like I said before, the moment he starts using the Evening Elephant, his body was actively breaking down. It is just going to worsen over time, and combined with the fact that once his limit is up with the 8th gate, he's gonna drop dead. Still though, he is able to fight with pretty much his entire body breaking down, and was still able to toughen through it and land a big hit in on Madara. How does Sanji compare? Well, in Wano, he was able to withstand most of his body being squished to death by Queen. This attack is breaking down a majority, if not all, of Sanji's bones, but it's not like he's really complaining about this. He's even able to regenerate his bones from this, although it's not a crazy regeneration feat like restoring a fucking limb or something. However, in Egghead Island, he was still able to straight up tank S-Shark's fish karate punch. Like, he's smiling after this and crossing his arms. He can also handle getting bitten down by Nishijuro later on. For his comparison to Guy, well, Sanji is kind of similar to him. He can deal with his body being broken down apart internally. However, Guy was definitely feeling pains much higher than that. He's literally burning into a crisp while his body is falling apart. They aren't far off from each other, but Guy can withstand higher levels than Sanji can, at least by a tad bit. Now, here we are to the big question of the video. Who wins, Sanji or Guy? Well, after spending hours researching and coming up with my scaling for both characters, if you've been paying attention closely, you'll kind of see who has the advantage here. As Guy can produce attacks strong enough to shatter a part of Madara's torso, not just any Madara, but Jubi Madara, this still is only good enough to get him into multi-continental levels of power, while Sanji is in the same tier of strength as men that can clash with and stalemate large planet-destroying abilities. He's also massively stronger than literal fodder who are capable of splitting continents apart. Like I said before, I think Moon level is a very acceptable AP for Sanji, which just outscales anything Guy can do. He also pretty clearly outspeeds him, as Guy is not even able to move at the speed of light, let alone faster than it, while doing that is something a pre-time skip Zoro was able to do, who Sanji gaps in speed. Any attack Guy tries to land on Sanji is going to most likely miss, as that speed difference will be absolutely torching Guy and too much of a problem for him. I will say though, Guy does have a win con here. It's not completely hopeless, as if by some miracle he does land a very big hit on Sanji, it will be able to destroy a half of his torso, and unlike Madara, Sanji can't regenerate his limbs, so that could give Guy the win, albeit at the cost of his life, and I highly doubt he will actually be able to pull this off. Mind you, Guy would have to resort to the 8th gate to stand even a chance. He would have a hard time touching it and doing lethal damage to Sanji without using it, and even then, I don't think he could even tag him. Honestly, Sanji could just beat around the battlefield and let Guy tire himself out and die. He doesn't even need to land a hit. The attacks would be hurting Sanji, but it would not land, and Sanji would be moving too fast for Guy to keep up with. Even if he does land an attack, Sanji can just fix himself with his exoskeleton as long as it's not tearing his limbs off, which they won't, and he would be hitting him with attacks that will literally send Guy flying. Literally. At the end of the day, Sanji is too fast and too strong for Guy to handle. Hand him the W. Well, that's it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to go leave a like and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm and is very appreciated. Special shout out to Sumo Llama for the thumbnail. If you would like high quality thumbnails of your own, hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter at Vertex_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.